Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another exciting edition of Free Advice Friday, where questions will be asked, answers will be given, advice will be dispensed freely, and hopefully the value of the advice that is dispensed freely is not reflective of the cost that it required to get the advice. Know what I'm saying? I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys today, though. Looking forward to answering your voiceover business and marketing questions. As always, I want to start off the top here with something that I would like to raise to the group, as it were. While we wait for some people to jump in on the live stream and wait for some questions to start popping up. By the way, if you do have a question that you would like to ask and get answered, when you do type it into the comments, please just type a Q beside your question. That way it helps me to pop out. It pops out to me on my screen. But what I wanted to talk about is in relation to the latest episode of the podcast. So brand new episode came out yesterday. I had Mandy Kay on the show. We were talking about AI image generation. I anticipated going in that by choosing to talk about a topic like that, I was welcoming the possibility of controversy. I know that AI is a real hot button subject right now, particularly for voice actors, as we wait to see how it's going to impact our industry, you know, the level of impact that it is going to have on our industry. And so because of that, it can be a very sensitive topic when it comes to voice actors using AI. And I'm not specifically talking about using AI as a voiceover tool, although that is absolutely a possibility. I'm just talking about in general. There are some strong opinions about voiceover actors using AI, with the argument, of course, being that if you don't want AI to replace you in your business, then why would you even welcome it into your business and you know, allow it to replace somebody else's work or somebody else's job? And I understand that argument. And so, of course, the pushback with this episode from yesterday, which, by the way, you should absolutely listen to the episode with Mandy Kay. But the pushback was on using AI image generators when we should be using graphic designers. And so how can we, on one side, say that we don't want AI to impact our ability to work as voice actors while simultaneously embracing AI and potentially eliminating work for other professions, such as if you're using an AI image generator, you know, eliminating opportunities for graphic designers? I understand the argument. I think that the argument is a little too broad. And I would say that because I would say, are there realistically, are there any voice actors who are hiring a graphic designer for every single image-based piece of content that they are creating? And I think the answer to that is no. I create social media content 5 to 7 days a week. It is not humanly possible for me at this point as a, you know, VOpreneur, a solopreneur, to hire a graphic designer to create every single piece of content that I create. So the idea that by using an AI image generator that I'm taking jobs away from a graphic designer really isn't a relevant argument, because I can't hire a graphic designer for that anyway. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm currently in the process of working on a rebrand for the VOpreneur logo. For that, I am working with a graphic designer. That is a job that I would never trust to AI. And so I have hired a local graphic designer. We've been working on the process for about 2 months now, going through different iterations, and I have no problem whatsoever paying her exactly what she has asked for and exactly what she is worth for the amazing work that she is doing for me. So when I need a graphic designer, I will hire a graphic designer. But when I am looking to create social media content, it's just not realistic for me to hire a graphic designer. And so I have no issue using an AI image generator. Many voice actors use Canva. I'm not sure, and you know, I'm willing to have the debate if I'm wrong. I'm not sure what the difference is between using a service like Canva or using an AI image generator, which, by the way, Canva has a built-in AI image generator. But just for the fun of it, I want to present a slightly different perspective. If you go back in our industry, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, the voiceover industry was controlled by agents. Every single job in voiceover, for the most part, went through agents because at that point in history, online casting did not exist. There was no such thing as Voice 123. There was no such thing as Bidalgo. There was no such thing as Voice Realm. There was no such thing as VO Planet. There was no such thing as voices.com. These casting sites didn't exist. If you wanted to hire a voice actor, you worked with an agent, and the job was recorded in a studio because home studios also didn't exist. Now, today, the agency model is struggling. And if you've been in this industry for any length of time, and I've been full-time in voiceover since 2012 was my first year, my first full year full-time, I've seen a lot of agents go under. And one of the reasons why the agents have gone under is because, one, voiceover actors are learning to market and buyers are wanting to work directly with talent. And two, online casting site marketplaces exist. So tell me what the difference is between AI image generators and online casting. Because if you have both an online casting site membership and an agent, what's the difference? That online casting is taking jobs away from your agent, but that doesn't stop you from using online casting, and it certainly doesn't stop you from having an agent. And so I think the same argument could be made for AI image generators, and this idea that, voice actors using AI tools is inherently evil because we're taking jobs away from other people. Well, if that's your argument, then you should probably cancel your online casting site memberships as well, because you're taking jobs away from your agents. And so the point is, somewhere in the midst of all of this, we have to find balance, and we have to accept the fact that the world changes. The industry changes. The agent and in the studio model changed. Home studios changed everything. How many studios now have gone under because voice actors don't come into the studio anymore? How many in-studio auditions do you do? Some of you have probably never done an in-studio audition anymore because we have home studios and we have Source Connect. And so we're okay with the changes that take place when those changes benefit us, right? Nobody's feeling bad for the studios because we've got a home studio and it's more convenient. I don't have to drive to the city. That's easy. That's more convenient. Nobody's feeling bad for the agents because online casting gives you the ability to jump online and submit jobs every single day. So you're okay with it when it benefits you, but when it might put your position at risk, then it's a different story. And so I'm just saying you got to look at this stuff with an open mind. And that may be a slightly controversial take, but I just see that no matter how pouty we get about AI, it is not going to go away. We're not just going to turn off the image generators. ChatGPT is not just going to get shut down. All of these tools that exist. And by the way, if you're using Siri, if you're using Alexa, if you're using Google Assistant, you've been using AI for years at this point, and you just didn't even realize it. So my whole thing is, if I can embrace the tools and they can help me to be more productive, more creative, and help me to add more value to my clients, then I'm going to do that. And when an opportunity comes for me to work with a professional human, like working on my logo, then I'm going to go work with a professional human and design my logo, because that makes sense for me. And that's money that I have to be able to invest. And so anyway, it's just something to think about, because I think that this AI conversation, I get it. It's still very new. It's still very sensitive. We're all still trying to figure it out. There are a lot of different takes, a lot of different opinions, but just a couple of things to think about. And in the meantime, if you haven't listened yet, go listen to this episode with Mandy Kay, because it was absolutely brilliant, talking about using AI image generators for your marketing. It's available wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. You can also watch it right here on the YouTube channel as well. So make sure that you go in and check it out. I have been playing around a lot in the last few days. After doing that interview with Mandy and having some conversations and starting to understand how the technology works a little bit, I've played around with Leonardo. I've played around with Ideogram. I've played with Canva's AI image generator, which I can't even believe. I've been a Canva Pro member for years. I didn't even realize that there was AI image generation in Canva Pro. Silly me. But what else was I using? I was using Adobe Firefly. And so I've just been having some fun. Am I going to use AI image generation for every single image that I have to create? Absolutely not. I am absolutely not. But every once in a while, when I'm looking for something specific, am I going to use it? Yes. Yes, I am. In fact, here's a great example. Let me just bring this one up on the screen right now. This is the image that I created. So I shared a post in the VOpreneur group about voices.com, and I wanted to make a very clear image. I wanted to send a very clear message with the image. And so this was an AI generated image. Now, if you look at the hands here, you'll see that, things are a little bit messed up or whatever, but I was trying to figure out as many different ways to throw up a stop sign as possible. And so this was me having fun with creating an AI image after that conversation and after that episode that I had with Mandy Kay. And this one, I believe, was created in Canva. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. And with that, I am now happy to dig into your questions here on Free Advice Friday. Tails, she told me, hey, Mark, I'm working my way through Playbook. Thank you very much for that. You mentioned Medium. What do you think of Substack? I will tell you, I don't know as much about Substack. I don't know as much about Discord. What I do know is wherever you have an opportunity to connect with potential buyers, if that is a platform that you are interested in, that you enjoy, and that you understand, there's value there. And wherever there is a platform where you can share content that is going to give you valuable backlinks, and so valuable backlinks are when a highly rated site links back to your site, that's going to give you SEO value. And so I would say that there's certainly something to be said for that as well. All right, let's see. What else? And by the way, guys, again, if you do have questions, please put a Q beside it when you type it into the comments. That just helps it to pop out so I can see it on the chat, because there's usually a lot of stuff happen really quickly on the chat, and I want to make sure that I don't miss what you have to say. Sean says, a new contact asked my rate for audio description, but I haven't seen this category in any guide. How can I extrapolate that from other rate categories? Ooh, good question. Audio description's not included in the GVAA rate guide. That's actually surprising to me. So if it's not in the GVAA rate guide, maybe dubbing? Possibly? I don't know. I'm not sure. Anybody do audio description? In fact, Sean, I know somebody that does audio description. So Sean, do me a favor. Send me a message, send me an email, and I'm going to connect you with, I know 2 different people that do audio description. So I'm going to connect you with those 2 different people, and I'll see if one of them has an answer for you. And in the meantime, that might be worth reaching out to the GVAA and asking about getting audio description included in the rate guide. Ira says, AI is getting built in everywhere. We all have to learn to work with it, whether we like it or not. It's been built in for years, and that's the thing. It's just that nobody was talking about it before. Nobody was talking about the fact that Siri was AI, that your iPhone has had AI in it for years, or Alexa, your smart home technology, the algorithms that feed you Netflix recommendations. This is all a form of AI, and so I think that we just, it's what Ira said. We've got to figure out whether or not we're going to learn how to work with it, or we're going to get left behind. And I particularly would like to not get left behind. Actor and voiceover. What specific tools or software do you use to make and edit your documentary YouTube shorts? Thank you. I am using Adobe Premiere. So I do have a full Creative Cloud subscription, which gives me access to Adobe Premiere. So that is what I build it in. I find a lot of my video footage from sites like Pixabay and also from Canva. So that is what I'm using. And I have a Riverside.fm subscription that I use to record my podcast. And I really like the captioning that Riverside.fm gives me. And so when I export the videos from Adobe Premiere, because I don't like the captioning in Premiere quite as much, I will then upload the videos to Riverside. The last few ones I've done this, I upload them to Riverside and then get Riverside to do the captioning on them. And then I can download them and post them. But that is how I have been creating those. I think some of the problem with visual AI is not with the user, but with the software itself. I hear people claim AI stole their art and gave it away as its own AI creation. And that is certainly something that we have to watch out for. 100% I agree with that. It's not always easy to know where the training is coming from. I mean, for those of you that are still using X, Twitter, I still use X, Twitter, it's got its own AI. And I can promise you that every tweet that you've ever sent is being used to program that AI. Just like if you're driving a Tesla, every thing that you do in that Tesla, every single piece of data that Tesla collects is being used to build Tesla AI and ultimately will be used to optimize full self-drive. And so it certainly is another consideration. And that's where legislation is going to have to come in. And I think it's going to come sooner than later. And I think that legislation is going to come in and it's going to have to hopefully give protections across a number of different fields, including creative content, copyrighted intellectual property, things of that nature. And that's where voice actors hopefully will get our protection as well. With Tennessee being the first state to introduce legislation that protects the voice through the Elvis Act. And so hopefully more and more of that is going to come in and we are going to be more protected over time. Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator now have built-in generative image fill, and Illustrator has an AI vector creator. Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. The technology is everywhere. How do you make your videos for your demos? Thanks, Tony. Okay, Tony, good question. So I do have video versions of my demos that I post on my website. Those ones are actually a little bit more basic than the weather shorts that I've been making. But what I did with that was I built them in Final Cut Pro. This is prior to using Adobe Premiere, but I would build them in Adobe Premiere now. And I just found a background that I liked, royalty-free background that I was able to use. I built out that background by adding some layers to it in Canva. So I put my image up there, put my logo up there. And then I used the video editing software to add in some testimonials and a call to action and different things like that. If you don't have access to a tool like Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve is an editing video editor that I believe is free. So that might be one that you want to look into. But there's also ways to do some of that creating basic videos in Canva. And I have created video versions of demos in Canva in the past. And headliner.app, that's a website you can write down, headliner.app. I have created video versions of demos from Headliner before. Headliner gives you like the bouncing audio wave, and you can add a layer of text to it as well. So if you created a background image in Canva, for example, maybe it's got your headshot, your logo, or something like that, and then you uploaded that to Headliner, and then you could add some call to action text, and you could add the audiogram, the little wave that moves across the screen or whatever. But those are a couple of different options that are available. So headliner.app, and also check out Canva. Particularly if you're a Canva Pro member, you get access to a lot more stock content. You mentioned agents are having a more difficult time these days. Do you see that happening with managers as well? Are actors using managers less? Actually, a few years ago, I had never really heard of managers in voiceover. And now it's becoming more and more of a thing. Now, Celia Siegel's offered management for many, many years, and she's certainly one of the most highly respected managers in the industry and gets a lot of opportunities for her voice actors, but she's doing more than just getting them auditions. And so I think that's part of it too. You have to understand the distinction between managers and agents. Agents bring you auditions, and that's what they do. They bring you auditions and get you bookings. Managers are, in theory, if you look at the legal definition of managers, they're not even supposed to be bringing you auditions. Technically, they're supposed to be managing your career, and so they can get you to the auditions as far as connecting you with agents, connecting you with the right people, providing financial advice, potentially accounting services, bookkeeping, etc., legal advice, things of that nature. But I definitely see that the management model is popping up a little bit more, and I dare to say, I could get in trouble for this. Agents will take a percentage of the jobs that they book you, which I think is fair. If an agent brings me an opportunity, I have no problem paying them their 10, 15, or 20%, whatever they're asking for. The management model, depending on the manager, that model takes, generally speaking, 10% across the board. So if you're a six-figure voice actor and all of a sudden you start working with the manager, you just paid them $10,000 before they even did anything for you, because they take 10% across the board, whether they get you the job or not. And so if I'm going to put myself in that situation, I need to make sure that there's massive value add. Because before I'm going to give you a percentage of the work that I'm going out and getting on my own, I need to be very clear about what you are doing for me. And so that's something that I think voice actors have to be cautious of and research when they sign up for a manager. And there are managers that absolutely provide that value. Don't get me wrong, there are. It's just that's one of the things that you have to think of and that you have to be looking for. What kind of VO jobs are there in Spain for English voice actors? That's a question comes from Mike. My guess is there's probably some translation opportunities. Any multinational companies that maybe have offices or divisions in the country. And I've done this in multiple countries before, where they're creating multiple versions of a video because they're creating it in the language of that country, but then they're also translating it to English as well. But one of the things that I would say, Mike, regardless of where you live, just remember that your potential client base is anywhere in the world where your language is spoken. So just because you're in Spain, of course, or I'm assuming you're in Spain, you can absolutely look for work and opportunities in Spain, but you are certainly not limited to work in Spain. Rebecca says, where did the AI generator for that image you created receive the source input images from? Are those legitimately sourced from artists, or are we taking work from them by using this? Just curious. And I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know where Canva, for example, I don't know where Canva gets its training material from. Leonardo, I don't know where it gets its training material from. My guess is it's being fed everything off the web, which is what every other language model is doing as well. ChatGPT does the exact same thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is the world that we live in now. When the product is free, you are the product. Everybody's heard that before. So if you're using social media and you're using social media for free, part of the rights that you give up is your content. Generally speaking, you're giving them the rights to use content. And I think this is something that we never really thought about before, but now we're all being more aware of. And I think voice actors as well. Nobody ever thought about putting AI writers into contracts even a year ago. It wasn't something that anybody was thinking about. But now, all of a sudden, it's something that everybody has to be thinking about, because the technology is changing very rapidly. And so that's something that we all have to think about and we all have to keep up with as well. And I think that's where legislation is going to come in. And it's going to maybe build some walls around some of those places where that training material is coming from. How would you categorize ads playing on gas station pumps? That's an interesting question, which of course I've seen, right? If you've been to the gas station, you've been fed those ads. I think I would probably treat it as a form of digital broadcast. I think if you looked at the GVA rate guide, I'm just guessing here, but if you go to the GVA rate guide, let's do it. Let's pull it up. You go to the GVA rate guide under the digital broadcast category and local markets, maybe. I mean, this is internet streaming, YouTube, Hulu, social media. So possibly something like that. So, 3 months usage, $400, $400 to $500 in the local market category. I don't know. I'm thinking that's what I would use. Automotive, digital broadcast. Yeah, I don't know, because it's paid. Technically, it's paid. It's like a paid advertisement. So I think that's probably what I would do. Is I would probably be looking somewhere in there in that digital broadcast category. And if you go to the GVA rate guide, you can just click the digital broadcast and it'll take you right there. I'd love to hear if anybody's got any other thoughts on that. I'd be curious to know what other people are doing or what other people may be using. Rob says, I didn't realize the end date for Playbook sign up was yesterday. Is that it for now, or are you extending the deadline? Yeah, the registration deadline gets promoted. The next registration is actually going to be coming up in July. And if you go to VoiceOver Marketing Playbook right now, you'll see I've put a new 6 simple marketing tips. So there's a free guide that you can download. If you go to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com, you'll get on the wait list for the next release. So you will be among the first to get notified, or you will be the first to get notified when Playbook comes out again. And you will also be invited to an exclusive pre-sale opportunity that will not be publicly advertised. So only people on the wait list will get access to that. So if you go to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com, sign up, you'll get that free marketing guide, and your name will go on the wait list for the next course release. What criteria do you use when selecting guests for your podcasts? A lot of it has to do with what people are asking for. I pay attention to the questions that people are asking in social media, in groups. I pay attention to the questions that I get asked in coaching. I pay attention to the questions that get asked here on Free Advice Friday. And then I'm looking at, who's an expert on a subject. I also, sometimes it's purely selfish. And I said that with Mandy's episode yesterday. I said it right in the episode. It was purely selfish. AI image generation was something I didn't know a lot about, and I wanted to get a better understanding of. And I knew that she knew about it. So I brought her on to ask her some questions, knowing that other people were going to benefit from that and from what she had to share as well. But that's a big part of it, is just, can I find somebody who's an expert in a subject that is relevant to voice actors on the business and marketing side, and that they've got something to share and they're willing to share. If a company has a contact form and I haven't found individual emails on LinkedIn, is it best just to use the contact form and hope they'll forward it to the right person? Yes, absolutely. But to take it one step further, when you go on LinkedIn, you may not be able to find an actual email address for somebody, but you should be able to find a contact. So when you go to LinkedIn, you should be able to figure out, okay, this is the creative director, this is the executive producer, this is the e-learning developer, this is the whatever. So you should be able to figure out who the person is that's in the job title that you want, or that has the job title that you want to reach out to. So then when you fill out your contact form, you can at least address the message to that individual. That way, when it lands in the general office inbox or whatever, whoever is responsible for that will be able to forward it on to the appropriate person. Again, if you've got a question that you would like to ask and get answered, feel free to type it into the comments, put a Q beside it so it pops out. It's a little bit easier for me to see. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys are enjoying the live stream so far. If you are, can you please do me a favor and hit that like button? I would certainly appreciate it. I always like to try to get a number of likes that are equivalent to the number of viewers that are watching. That way I know you all did it. I'm watching you. So I would certainly appreciate it if you did that. Thank you very much. Again, I mentioned if you go to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com, there is a brand new free resource that is there. 6 simple marketing tips. Just some general ideas that will get you started, give you some things to think about when you are trying to figure out where to get going with your marketing if you don't have ideas already. So you can get access to that guide by going to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. That is voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. David says, hey, Mark, what process do you use for e-learning and other VO that needs to batch process and separate modules? I'm considering Word to Wave. Do you know anything about it or anyone who uses it? Thanks. Yeah, I believe Liz Dineshrana, who sometimes joins us on Free Advice Friday, I believe that's what she's using, Word to Wave. So I can tell you my workflow when I record in Adobe Audition. So when I'm recording e-learning and I've got to do individual files, what I will actually do is I will record in multi-track mode. and then just start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. I'm not saying it's the best method, but it's the method that I've been using and been using for a really long time. Now, I know in Adobe Audition, there is also a way when you're recording that you can drop markers and then you can split files based on markers. I just don't know specifically how it works because I've never had to learn. But I'm sure that that is something that Uncle Roy could teach as well. And I'm kind of surprised he's not with us on the broadcast, or I haven't seen him pop in yet. I'm sure he will at some point, but that's another way to do it. But that's my process. That way, when I record in multi-track mode, all my files are already split, so it makes it really easy to edit the files individually, and then I just go through and name the files individually. But yes, Word to Wave, I know that is something that people use as well. I think Liz used it because it was really popular with telephony, because that's another genre where you're creating, hundreds of prompts potentially, and so you want something like that. Haley says, regarding gas stations, there is a kiosk category on GVAA, but it's non-retail, so not ads. It could be a good starting point for pricing, but increase the amount if it's advertising. So maybe there's a happy medium somewhere between that kiosk category and the digital broadcast category, possibly. Regarding gas stations, not broadcast, the fellow went to the gas station and stood in front of the monitor, same as how to peel a banana video in the fresh food section in the supermarket. The idea, I know it's not specifically a paid ad like a paid ad on YouTube, but somebody is probably paying. Most of that content is being paid to be placed there, unless they're just running a local TV station feed or something like that. Audio to script actually touched on this earlier in the broadcast. There does not appear to be a category for that. So that is definitely something that we should think about reaching out. Hey, look, there's Liz. I knew she'd pop in. She must have knew that we were talking about her. She must have heard me saying her name. She uses Word to Wave. I knew that she would pop in and she would have all the answers to the Word to Wave questions. So there you go, Liz. David's got questions about Word to Wave. And I knew that was an area where you have a lot more expertise than I do. What else can I help you guys with? Do you have questions that you would like to ask for Free Advice Friday? This is it. This is the gig. I sit here for an hour on Friday afternoons, most Friday afternoons. And if you've got questions, business and marketing related voiceover questions, I am certainly happy to answer as many of those questions as I possibly can. I will tell you that Free Advice Friday is going to be potentially hit and miss for the next couple of weeks. We are like T-minus 9 days and counting, T-minus 10 days and counting until the official due date of the baby. If my wife has her way, the baby will come this weekend because she's just done with the whole pregnancy thing. And I certainly understand. I mean, as much as a dumb guy can understand, I understand her frustration. But obviously, Free Advice Friday for the next couple of weeks will be in flux while we see what goes on with the baby and when the baby comes. But in the meantime, I am here and I am ready to answer your questions. Summer says, do you market differently depending on where the potential client is? For example, Canada versus the US. Yes, if I'm marketing in the United States, I never, ever, 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 ever tell them I'm from Canada. It's really funny. It's completely a psychological thing. I am convinced that it is completely a psychological thing. I have clients that I've worked with for years, some of them for like a decade. They have no idea that I'm from Canada. Recorded dozens, hundreds of voiceover jobs for some of them. And then one day they find out I'm Canadian and all of a sudden I have an accent. I never had an accent before, but as soon as they hear the word Canada, they immediately, oh, oot and a boot and Bob and Doug McKenzie, eh? And then I'm screwed. So I actually never tell my American clients that I'm from Canada. I mean, it's not like I hide it. It's in the invoice and all that sort of stuff, but I certainly don't market that fact. On the flip side, if I'm marketing to clients that are Canadian, I will generally mention the fact that I am Canadian if they care. But I think there are certain cultural differences as well, sometimes depending on where you're reaching out. But by and large, my approach is pretty much the same everywhere that I go. And, generally speaking, it's worked pretty well for me up to this point. All right. What else can I answer for you guys? Thank you for hanging out, as always. Thank you for watching. I certainly appreciate you guys giving me some time in the afternoon, and I'm certainly happy to answer as many questions as I can get to. If I have missed your question, please feel free to type it again. I certainly don't want to miss any questions. If you do have a question, just put a Q beside it so that it pops out a little bit easier for me to find in the chat feed. Managers sometimes want 30% of everything you make, whether they got it or not. So just be careful. Yeah, I would never. 30% across the board? No way. You would have to be doing some pretty stellar things for me in my business in order for me to give you 30% across the board. But that's just me. All right. Who's got a question? What do you want to talk about? Let me tell you about this while we're waiting for questions to pop up. 40 job titles to connect with for voiceover. If you are struggling with your marketing and one of your challenges is you have no idea who to even reach out to in the first place, this 40 job titles resource is going to be particularly helpful for you because it's going to give you 40 different job titles that, generally speaking, are the ones that are hiring for voiceover. So the way that I came up with this guide, I actually went through my entire CRM, thousands of contacts, went through my LinkedIn, thousands of contacts, and distilled it down to these are the 40 most common job titles that I appear to be working with, and put those into a handy dandy guide that is available if you go to viopreneur.com and click on the store button. $27, viopreneur.com, click on the store button and download that 40 job titles guide. Iris says, when do you know it's time to give up on P2Ps? This is a tricky question because sometimes it is genuinely the P2P's issue. But sometimes it's the talent's issue. So what I mean by that is sometimes it feels like pay-to-plays make it almost impossible for voice actors to book, or they have built systems that make it so that the same people seem to be booking consistently over and over again, which makes it difficult for other people to get an opportunity. And that can be incredibly frustrating. But sometimes it's not the casting site's fault. Sometimes it's our issue as voice actors. And that's because we're maybe just not quite delivering what we need to deliver. So one thing I would be looking at, if you're doing an online casting site and you are getting tons of auditions and you're submitting tons of auditions, but you are not getting shortlisted for anything, odds are that has a lot to do with something on the talent side. That could be your delivery or your coaching. It could be your acting. It could also be your sound and studio quality. And Iris, I know you asked the question, so I am not giving answers specifically to you right now. Just to be clear, I'm just answering the question on a broad and general level. Having interviewed CEOs of many of the online casting sites, one thing that was said across the board was 80% of auditions, and this was literally across the board, 80% of auditions were getting thrown out because the audio quality was bad. And so if you're not getting any likes at all, no shortlists at all, that would be one of the first things that I would be doing is getting somebody like Uncle Roy to assess your audio, or Jordan Reynolds, or George Whittam, or Tim Tippett, or Dan Friedman. There are a number of different people who can do it. Get somebody who's an engineer to listen to your audio, tell you if your audio is good. I think sometimes it can be with your editing. If you are leaving too big of a gap before you start into the audition, that can be a problem because lots of times they're just sitting here going like this and they're listening to 2 to 3 seconds. And so if you're not making the right impression within 2 to 3 seconds because you've left a 3-second gap at the start, or you slated when they didn't ask you to slate, that could be one of the reasons. It could literally be something that simple, that you slated when they didn't ask to slate. And so they clicked, all they heard was your slate, and they already moved on. It can be little things like that sometimes. On the flip side, if you are auditioning on a consistent basis and you are getting short lists, but you're not getting bookings, sometimes that's because there's this big of an issue, just a little bitty thing. And one session with one coach to get them to listen to some of those auditions where they can hear what you're not hearing and they can say, you are this close. But you just got to change up this one thing. If you just change up this one thing, I think it's going to be the thing that does it. And so sometimes that's a conversation and a coaching session worth having. So working with somebody like Brad Highland, for example, I believe Bev Standing will do it as well. Listen to your auditions and give you some feedback specifically on your auditions. I think the other thing that you can be doing is paying attention to what you are consistently getting shortlisted for, because the jobs that you are consistently getting shortlisted for, those are the jobs that you need to be focusing on. So sometimes the reason why you're having trouble on online casting is because you're trying to submit for everything, but maybe you're not good at everything. No offense, but we're not all great at everything. There are genres of voiceover that I know that I can't do, so I don't even try to go into those genres. I want to just focus on the areas that I can. When I was using online casting, I had my settings in the profile so that I only saw auditions for about 3 different categories, because those were the 3 main categories where I knew I was most likely to book. And so I didn't even want to see the rest of the stuff because I didn't want to spend time thinking about it. I didn't want to spend time submitting for it. So sometimes you got to get really strategic as well. So that's something else to think about. But I would say if you have done online casting for a year, you've paid your money for a year, you've submitted the auditions, you've got tons of short lists, you've listed to you've worked with a coach, the coach has said you're great, you should be there. Maybe you don't want to renew next year. I understand that. But I just think more often than not, there are variables that are inside of our control as a talent. And we need to make sure that we've addressed all of those potential variables before we get frustrated and just blame the P2P for our lack of success. For new talent that cannot yet afford coaching or a pro demo, is it best to stay on platforms like Fiverr or Upwork until I can afford coaching and a pro demo? I would say probably, because if you go to a platform like Voice123 or Voices.com or Bidalgo or some of those different types of platforms, you are literally competing with the best of the best. And some of those platforms won't even accept your profile if you don't have demos that you can post. So going to a pay-to-play like a Voices.com or a Voice123 and spending $400 when you have no professional demos and no professional training, it is highly improbable that you will get a return on your investment. Maybe you have a natural skill set that sets you apart from everybody else. That's entirely possible. Not going to say it's not. But more often than not, you're going to get slaughtered on the platform because you're competing with the best of the best of the best. What else can I answer for you? Are you doing any ongoing coaching or training at this point in your career? How frequently? Yeah, I work with coaches often. I was at VO Atlanta sitting in on sessions, attending sessions and taking notes. And, I was there to teach, of course, but I was also there. I sat in on a couple commercial sessions, one that J. Michael did that I made a few notes on. I sat in on the narration panel and took some notes on some things that Tom Pinto had to say. This year, I am planning to work on. I think I'm going to do a new commercial demo this year, and so I'm in the process of deciding who I'm going to coach with to start working towards that. But I've personally coached with J. Michael Collins, and when I say personally, I mean I've done private coaching with J. Michael, Ann Ganguza, Dave Walsh, Tom Pinto, Everett Oliver, Uncle Roy. So I think that's how the good voice actors stay good, or the great actors stay great. Maybe not to say that I'm a great voice actor, because that I wouldn't say that I am, but how I managed to compete and still book work at this point in my career is because I'm still coaching and learning. The industry changes fast. Trends change fast. And if you are not keeping up with those trends, you're going to get left behind. And so I think that's why for most of us, the coaching never stops, or should never stop. Do you know of any resources outside of a coach that could assess your voice? Sort of like your voice seems best suited for this genre, client brand, etc. Outside of a coach, off the top of my head, no. I mean, you could ask colleagues, depending on where they're at in their career, but that could just create more confusion for you, depending on the answers that you get. So that's something that I think working with a good reputable coach, I think they can help you with that. But I think you can also, part of it is also, what do you want to do? Because I genuinely believe, I'm sure there are some instances where people just don't have it, period. I'm sure those instances are out there. But by and large, I am very much a growth mindset kind of person. Read the book, Carol Dweck. And I believe that if you want something bad enough and you are willing to put in the effort and the investment of time, finances, etc., we can learn. And so I think there's an element of that as well. What do you really want to do? And, are you willing to do whatever you got to do to get yourself there? Demos. I'm being asked for an accented demo with the second language I speak. Not sure that is worth the investment. Thoughts? Well, I mean, sometimes the market dictates. If you're being asked for it, there's a reason for that. If you're being asked for it, it's because there's probably opportunities out there, or there's people that want to hear it. I think that a demo like that can absolutely make a return on investment for you if you're willing to go out and market the thing to get the return on that investment. And I think that goes for any demo, to be clear. Follow up on the Fiverr question. If I get on Fiverr, will this hurt me later? I don't think so. Are there certain projects that could come back to haunt you? Potentially. If you book a big name spot with a big name brand on Fiverr and that creates a conflict for you later on down the road, then yes. So the solution to that is, don't book the big name spot with the big name brand that isn't paying fair market rates. I'm humble enough to admit when I'm wrong about something. And years ago, I was very vocal against Fiverr. Very, very vocal against Fiverr. I wrote a lot of blogs about it. I did a lot of videos about it. I think I might have even done a podcast about it. But over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to do some coaching with some voice actors who are using Fiverr and doing very well on the platform. And I was surprised to find that in some instances, they were making GVAA rates or better. I was genuinely surprised. I know they always say on Fiverr you can charge whatever you want, but I'm like, okay, great. But if I'm asking $500 for a job that somebody else is willing to do for $25, am I actually going to book it? Well, you know what? That's economics 101. The market decides. And if somebody wants my voice bad enough for their spot, then I guess they're going to be willing to pay for it if that's the rates that I'm asking for. And so I was surprised, particularly in e-learning. I found some voice actors who were doing e-learning work on Fiverr who were actually making more than GVAA rates by the time you factored in some of the different upsells and upcharges and things of that nature. And I was genuinely surprised. And so I have changed my tune on Fiverr a little bit over the years. And I think there's probably a component of that is education, and a component of that is probably age and wisdom and time. So do I think it is going to hurt you later? I think it just depends on the types of jobs that you take. Now, has it been said, are there agents who have said that they won't take a talent who's on Fiverr? I've heard that before. Is it true? I don't know. But if I was making good money on Fiverr, would I be worried about that at this point anyway? Like, I mean, for me, my agents are responsible for, this much of my annual income. So, you got to weigh that as well, make the decision that's right for you. But I think it's a really good question. I think it's a really fair question. I think it's probably a really hot question. If you were to ask that in a Facebook group, I think it would probably start complete freaking chaos. So I'm just giving you my honest answer. I think there's opportunities to make some money there, and I don't think it's going to hurt you later. Now, I will also say that if AI is going to come for voiceover, it's going to start at Fiverr first. And what I mean by that is those really low budget jobs, the $5 jobs, the $10 jobs, the $25 jobs, the $40 jobs, those are the jobs that I think are going to go first to AI. So if you are that Fiverr talent, I think you're probably going to be in trouble. But if you are good enough that you're able to command a little bit higher rate and build some loyal clients by providing fantastic service, excellent value, what do you got to lose at this point, honestly? Good question. Good discussion. mean, it's not really a discussion. It's just me sitting here talking, but I assume that you guys are talking back and forth with me and nodding your head in agreement or shaking your head like this or going, oh. I like to visualize that. Helps make me more conversational when we're doing this. Ira says, why are some agents openly refusing to work with talent on popular P2Ps? Is this a recent trend? Okay, Voices.com a number of years ago did some shady things, and those shady things pissed off some agents, a lot of reputable agents. And so there were a number of agents who took a stand and said that they would not represent talent who were participating in Voices.com, specifically because of some of the shady things that Voices.com had done. Do I agree with it? I don't know. Do I understand it? Sure. Is it their right to do that? Yep. Is that something that we have to weigh as a voice actor? Yep. It comes back to the Fiverr thing. If I'm making a crap ton of money on Voices.com and an agent says they're not going to take me because of that, to me, that's the agent's loss. Honestly, I'll find another agent. If I'm not making any money on Voices.com and an agent wants to sign me, but they won't because I'm on Voices.com, would I leave the platform? Sure. I'm not making any money on it. What difference does it make at that point? So I think that's one of those situations where everybody's got to weigh it for themselves. But yes, there were. Now that's that particular site. I don't know about some of the other ones, but I do know at one point there were a number of agents who spoke out strongly against Voices.com. A lot of it had to do with rates. And just, their whole thing was like, if you're a talent that's willing to work for these kinds of rates, then you know what, we don't want to work with you. And that's fair. That's their prerogative. It's their business. Just like you and I get to choose our clients, who we work with or who we don't. They get to choose their clients and who they work with or who they don't. Is there a difference between linking playing demos from YouTube versus Vimeo? I've heard YouTube can make people watch a commercial before your demo plays. Yes. There is a difference. YouTube is a monetized platform, and the monetization is across the board. So my channel now has reached monetization. So there are ads that play on my channel and I make like 4 cents when one of those ads plays. It's fantastic. I'm going to retire one day. But before my channel hit monetization, the ad still played. I just didn't get the 4 cents. So if you are posting your demos on YouTube and you do not have a monetized channel, because I think you can opt out on a monetized channel. I haven't actually looked into that. I think you can. But anyway, so for most people who are uploading stuff to YouTube, you're going to see ads pop up. Now, maybe not every time, but you are going to see ads pop up. That's where Vimeo is different. Vimeo does not do that, but that's also because Vimeo, you can do a certain number of uploads with Vimeo for free, but you do once you get over a certain point, you have to pay. That's where I hosted all of my course videos until I switched over to my new platform, Kajabi, last April. For a decade, all of my video content for my courses was hosted on Vimeo, and that was why, because it was ad free. And so that's also a reason why a lot of producers choose to use Vimeo for displaying their portfolios, because of the fact that it is ad free. All right, guys, what time is it? Oh, 1:53. I can still stick around and answer a couple more questions. If you've got a question that you would like to ask and answer, and again, I apologize if I have missed your question. I've tried to get to as many of them as possible. But if I have missed your question, feel free to type it again and just put that cue beside it. Let me just scroll back through here and see. Summer says, your podcast with the V123 Pro is very enlightening. That was a great episode. Go back and listen to that one if you haven't listened to it yet. Look for it. It is here on the YouTube channel. Catherine and Natasha showing up as always, delivering a masterclass as always. So much good information in that episode. Guys, I cannot express to you enough how important it is to understand how the algorithm works. If you are going to use Voice 123, you have to understand the algorithm. And Catherine and Natasha understand the algorithm and did a fantastic job at explaining a lot of different things. I learned a ton from that episode. So, go back on the YouTube channel, look for that video, watch it when you're done here. If you're using Voice 123, it is absolutely worth it. Amazon S3 is an alternative to Vimeo, ad-free and much less expensive. There you go. Didn't even know that was an option, so I'm learning something here too. Thank you for sharing that, Russian Grammar. I appreciate that. Marlon says, thanks for your help, Mark. I need to get the money up to make the demos. I appreciate your response. Yes. Hey, I get it. We've all been there. Demos, good demos aren't cheap. I think good demos are worth it. I think good demos will pay for themselves, but I also know that you got to have the money to pay for them up front. Totally understand that. Who else has got a question? I probably got time for one more question. Don't forget, go to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com, voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. Sign up for the playbook wait list. Grab the free guide, 6 simple marketing tips. If you are on the Playbook wait list, you are going to get notified before anybody else when Playbook becomes available in July, and you are going to be invited to an exclusive pre-sale. This pre-sale will not be advertised. This pre-sale is only going to be announced to people who are on the wait list. I can tell you right now that the pre-sale for the April Playbook, people who took advantage of it at the top end got $800 in additional added value, absolutely free. But the only way you will know about that is if you sign up for the wait list. So you can do that by going to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. AW says, thanks for hosting this, Mark, and I wish you all the best with the upcoming birth. Thank you for that. Exciting times. I'm going to miss sleep. But when I'm snuggling my baby, I won't even realize it. And if you know, you know, right? If you've been there, you get it. Tracy says, tax deductions in Canada. Yes, Tracy, taxes freaking suck in this country. Get all the deductions, every stinking deduction, write it all off. Working with a good accountant, obviously, is to your advantage. It does not, in my opinion, have to be an accountant that is specifically working with voice actors. I think any small business accountant is going to be able to help you to find all of those write-offs, but you would be surprised at what you can write off. Anything that is an investment in your business, in most cases, can be written off. So if you buy a new computer, if you buy a new microphone, any kind of piece of equipment, portion of your internet bill, portion of your cable bill, portion of your cell phone bill, portion of your house insurance. If you lease, you can write off a portion of your lease and a portion of your car insurance. If you are buying office supplies like pens and paper and printer ink, you can write off that sort of stuff. If you're taking courses, coaching, demos, things of that nature, you can write off that stuff. If you've got cloud subscriptions, you're paying for cloud storage or Dropbox or something like that, you should be able to write that off. If you've got Source Connect, you should be able to write that off. If you're paying for Google to host your email, if you're paying that for Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, you should be able to write that off. If you've registered a domain and you have website hosting, you should be able to write that off. So there's so many different things that you need to be aware of, and that's where a good accountant can make all of the difference, because they will make sure that you pay a little bit less tax. And for those of you in Canada, you understand the struggle is real. Yes, everybody says we have free healthcare. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, we do have free healthcare, but nothing is free, because we also pay some of the highest taxes of anywhere in the free world, I think. And so any little write-off that I can find, I will absolutely take it, because we need it. Tina says, what's the life on the demo? How often should you redo them? Oh, this is a really good question. I think there are a couple of things that you need to take into consideration, Tina. First and foremost, how do you feel about the demo? I can't tell you how many voice actors I've worked with, and when we get right down to it, if we're doing a private coaching session, we get right down to it, we uncover that the reason why they're not marketing their demo is because they don't love their demo. If you don't love your demo, you will not market your demo. And if you won't market your demo can't make you money. So how you feel about your demo is absolutely important. And this can particularly come into play if you're a newer voice actor. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a new voice actor, your first demo is your worst demo. No offense to you. This is universal across the board. All voice actors. First demo, worst demo. First demo often has the shortest lifespan because you are getting better so much more quickly. So if this is a very early demo, it might actually need to be replaced a lot sooner than if you're further down the road in your career. But how you feel about your demo, I think, is really important. I think the other thing is it reflective of what is booking in the marketplace right now? My commercial demo, I know it's out of date at this point. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at getting it redone this year, because I know that it is out of date. It does not reflect what is booking in the market right now. I'm not worried about it too much in the past because I don't do a lot of commercial, but I know it's time. So is it reflective of what is booking in the market right now? Does it have the right types of reads, the right type of style, the right type of inflection, the right type of tone, all of that sort of stuff? I would say something else that I would be looking at is the content relevant? So if you've got a political demo that's got candidates that are no longer running, the content is not relevant. If you were one of those voice actors that got a demo in 2020 and it's got a COVID spot on it, the content is no longer relevant. And so look at that. Now, that could also be something where maybe you don't need to do a whole entire new demo. Maybe you just need to do a demo refresh and get a couple of new spots added, a couple old ones taken out, a couple new ones taken in, put in. So that's something else to think about. The other thing I would say is, what are your agents saying? If you have agents, are your agents happy with your demo? Are they still marketing your demo? Or are your agents saying that it's time to get the demo refreshed? That would be another consideration as well. I'm going to say, and this is totally subjective, and I think it depends on genre as well. I would say that some of the prime genres, the commercials, the promos, the broadcast types, the imagings, things of that nature, I'm going to say probably every 2 to 3 years. Maybe. Some people might agree. Some people might disagree. I think an e-learning demo can last a little bit longer. I think a telephony demo can last a little bit longer. Corporate narration demo can last a little bit longer. That's where I think it comes back more to, how do you feel about it? And is it relevant and on trend with what's booking right now? So those are some of the things that I would be taking into consideration. All right, guys, I got to jump out because I got a coaching session in a few minutes. So I don't want to keep that voice actor waiting, but thank you so much for hanging out with me. As always, I love it. If there's no baby and my wife is not looking like she is imminently going to go into labor, I'll try and do Free Advice Friday next week, but we'll play it by ear. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you will get notified if I'm going to go live, and I will post it as far in advance as I can. But as always, I thank you so much for joining me, for your questions. I love it because your questions keep me sharp. Your questions help me to figure out what kind of content I need to be creating to continue to help you guys. It inspires podcast episodes and live streams and webinars and courses and all kinds of stuff. And so I'm grateful for all of that as well. So whatever you decide to do this weekend, as always, have fun, stay safe, and go find some leads.